The moment Ethan Miller stepped into the softly lit restaurant, his heart sank in a way he couldn't explain because the woman he was supposed to meet was sitting alone at a corner table with her head bowed, silent tears slipping down her face as if the weight of the world had finally crushed her. He almost turned around and walked back into the cold night, believing instantly that this was a mistake, that a man like him had no place in moments like this, unaware that this single night would tear him apart and slowly rebuild him in ways he never imagined. Before the story goes any further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet power of human connection, please take a moment to like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel for more emotional stories like this. And don't forget to tell us in the comments where you're watching from, because no matter where we are in the world, stories like this bind us together. Ethan Miller was a poor single father who had learned to survive on routine and restraint. His life revolved around his 8-year-old son, Noah, whose laughter was the only thing that kept Ethan standing upright when exhaustion threatened to fold him in half. Ethan worked 2 jobs, one during the day unloading trucks at a warehouse, and another at night cleaning office floors long after the city lights dimmed. His hands were rough, his back constantly aching, and his dreams had been quietly shelved the day Noah's mother walked out, leaving behind a goodbye note and a silence that never fully faded. Ethan didn't hate her anymore. Hate required energy he no longer had. He only focused on making sure Noah never felt unwanted. The blind date wasn't his idea. It was arranged by a co-worker who believed Ethan had punished himself long enough. Ethan agreed reluctantly, borrowing a decent shirt and counting his cash twice before stepping out. He told himself this wasn't about romance. It was about reminding himself he was still human. What he didn't expect was to walk into a room where heartbreak was already unfolding. The woman crying at the table was Victoria Reynolds, though Ethan didn't know her name yet, nor the fact that she was the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar technology company. To the world, Victoria was powerful, admired, and untouchable. To herself, she was exhausted, hollow, and painfully alone. That very morning, she had finalized a separation that had been years in the making. Not a business deal, but a personal loss caused by her relentless pursuit of success. She had climbed every mountain she could see, only to realize she had no one standing beside her at the top. The blind date had been meant as a distraction, a last attempt to prove she hadn't lost the ability to connect. Instead, grief arrived first. Ethan approached the table slowly, unsure whether to speak or leave. He sat down quietly, his presence gentle, non-threatening. For several minutes, neither of them spoke. The clinking of dishes and low murmur of other diners filled the space between them. Ethan felt painfully out of place, aware of his worn shoes and the calluses on his hands. Victoria felt exposed, ashamed of her tears in front of a stranger who looked as tired as she felt. When Victoria finally leaned forward, she whispered something so soft and broken that it struck Ethan like a blade to the chest. What she shared wasn't dramatic or poetic. It was a simple, devastating truth about building a life so high that no one could reach her anymore, about choosing ambition again and again until love quietly walked away. She admitted she didn't know how to be anything other than strong, and that strength had cost her everything that mattered. Ethan listened, frozen, because every word echoed something inside him. He understood sacrifice. He understood loss. But what broke his heart wasn't her pain. It was the realization that despite this shared understanding, they lived in completely different worlds. He saw the invisible distance between them, shaped by money, status, and circumstances that could never be ignored. He imagined his tiny apartment, Noah's worn backpack, the overdue bills folded in his pocket, and felt a sharp certainty settle deep inside him. He was not part of her future, no matter how much their hearts might recognize each other. The date ended without promises or plans. Ethan walked home under flickering streetlights, each step heavier than the last. When he reached his apartment, Noah was already asleep, his small chest rising and falling peacefully. Ethan sat on the edge of the bed, holding his son's hand, feeling the ache in his chest deepen. That night, he cried silently, mourning something that never had a chance to exist. Life moved forward, as it always does. Days blurred into weeks filled with work, parenting, and quiet endurance. Ethan buried the memory of Victoria, convincing himself it was just another reminder that some things were never meant for people like him. Yet something had shifted. Her whispered confession lingered in his mind, softening him in ways he couldn't explain. He found himself more patient with Noah, more open with strangers, less bitter about the hand life had dealt him. Victoria, meanwhile, returned to her glass towers and endless meetings, but nothing felt the same. She couldn't forget Ethan's eyes, the way he listened without judgment or expectation. For the first time in years, she questioned whether success without connection was worth the cost. She initiated a community outreach program through her company, determined to create something that mattered beyond profit. Fate, quiet and persistent, brought them together again months later at a community center sponsored by Victoria's company. Ethan was there with Noah, attending a free tutoring program. When Ethan looked up and saw Victoria across the room, time seemed to pause. Their recognition was instant, heavy with everything unsaid. This time, there were no tears, only a fragile understanding that life had shifted them both. Their connection grew slowly, carefully, layered with hesitation. Ethan struggled with feelings of inadequacy, constantly reminding himself of the gap between them. Victoria wrestled with guilt and fear, aware of how the world would judge a bond like theirs. Rumors began to circulate. Some questioned Ethan's intentions. Others criticized Victoria's involvement. The pressure threatened to crush something that had barely begun. Ethan faced a painful choice when offered a higher-paying position that would take him away from Noah and the center. Victoria faced resistance from her board, who questioned her priorities. Both stood at crossroads, forced to decide what kind of lives they truly wanted. It was Noah who unknowingly shifted everything. One afternoon, he handed Victoria a drawing of three figures holding hands beneath a bright sun. That simple image carried more truth than any boardroom speech ever could. It reminded both adults that love doesn't arrive when life is perfect, but when hearts are brave enough to stay open. Just before the ending, please comment below and share what you believe truly defines a meaningful life. Ethan chose growth over fear, enrolling in training programs that gave him real opportunity without shortcuts. Victoria chose balance over obsession, redistributing power and reclaiming her humanity. Their journey wasn't easy. Struggles didn't vanish. But hope, once shattered, slowly rebuilt itself stronger than before. Near the end, if this story touched your heart, please like, comment, and share this video. Your engagement helps stories of compassion and resilience reach those who need them most. In the end, Ethan learned that being poor never meant being unworthy, and Victoria learned that power without love is the greatest poverty of all. What began as heartbreak on a blind date became a reminder that sometimes the words that break us are the same ones that teach us how to heal.